Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update on the current situation in Spain, day 409 of the current situation. And the Madrid election campaign seems to be getting uglier and uglier as the days go by, with another prominent politician here in Spain also receiving a threatening letter yesterday. But more about that in just a moment. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel by buying merchandise, and a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your support. Now let's get into the news, and unfortunately we're seeing the ugly side of politics here in Spain at the moment with the Madrid election campaign, with various politicians receiving threatening letters from the public over the last few days. Yesterday it was the turn of the tourism minister Reyes Maroto to receive one of these letters, but the person who sent the letter made the mistake of putting his address on the back and has subsequently been caught. As we can see here, the police identify the author of the threatening letter to Maroto and analyse whether there is a connection with the bullets sent to Iglesias. He is a resident of El Escorial with psychiatric problems who had put his real name and address on the envelope. For the moment, the scientific police is investigating whether there is a connection between this letter and the other three that contained bullets and that were sent last Thursday to the Minister of the Interior or Home Minister Fernando Grande Marlaska, to the Director of the Civil Guard Maria Gamez, and to the former Vice President of the government and Podemos candidate for the Madrid regional government, Pablo Iglesias. So is there a connection between these letters? That is what the police is currently trying to work out. Is the person who was caught yesterday responsible for all of the letters? Are there any connections between the letters? Or are there various people or groups behind the letters? That is what they are trying to find out. But the question a lot of people are asking themselves is, how did these letters get through security checks? As we can see from this headline, how could the letters with the bullets and the knife reach the ministries without being intercepted? Investigators claim that the black hole for security was in the post office, although one letter reached the minister's secretary. The letters that arrive at the ministry's headquarters from citizens are a constant. Citizens are reluctant to use the complaint boxes that the institutions have set up and prefer to write handwritten letters to congratulate, criticize, applaud, or insult the management of the minister of the day. It is enough to know the address of the ministry, which can be found on Google, go to a post office and deposit the letter. And according to this other headline, failures in security controls have allowed the threatening letters to reach their destination. The Interior Minister does not rule out the possibility of security failures in detecting the content of the letters because they all managed to pass the security checks. So potential holes in both the postal system's security checks and the ministry's security checks here in Spain at the moment, allowing these letters to get to their destination. Now there's some good news for tennis fans here in Spain, and it is that the Madrid Open is going ahead with crowds this year. As we can see from this headline, tennis returns to the Caja Mágica in Madrid with the public after a 2-year hiatus due to the coronavirus. Under strict health control, but tennis returns to Madrid with spectators after a 2-year hiatus due to the coronavirus. The Mutua Madrid Open will be held in the Caja Mágica with 5,000 spectators a day. It won't be the hype of other editions, but the fact that there will be a crowd is an incentive for the best players in the world to come together at the Madrid Masters 1000, one of the most important sporting events every year in Spain. So the Madrid Tennis Open going ahead this year with crowds against the recommendations from the central government that wanted to ban crowds from this event and other events like bullfighting, which are also scheduled to take place in coming days. And given the current health situation in Spain's capital, time will tell if this is a bad idea or not. Now, Europe's beleaguered tourist industry received some good news yesterday when it was announced that vaccinated tourists from the United States will be able to visit European countries this summer. The European Commission will recommend that member states allow immunized US tourists to enter the EU this summer. This would end more than a year of mobility restrictions with the United States. The President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has assured that American tourists vaccinated against COVID-19 will be able to travel to EU countries this summer. She confirmed this in an interview with the New York Times. Americans, as far as I know, use vaccines that are approved by the EMA. This will allow them to travel and move more freely, she said. And Spain will be ready in June to welcome international tourism again. Spain will be ready in June to use the European Digital Green Certificate and to tell all tourists from around the world that they can visit the country again. The Secretary of State for Tourism, Fernando Valdez, has announced this at the annual summit of the World Travel and Tourism Council. Speaking at the meeting, which brings together more than 600 representatives of the private and public tourism sector from 20 countries, Valdez welcomed the wonderful news yesterday that vaccinated American tourists will be able to enter the European Union. So some big news announced yesterday by the European Commission and also from the Tourism Ministry here in Spain. And I'm sure that there are lots of people in the United States delighted with that news that they will be allowed to travel to the country this year. And on the subject of tourism this year, Spaniards have also been told to start planning their vacations. As we can see here, Tourism Minister Ms. Morato urges Spaniards to plan their summer holidays now. The Minister of Industry, Trade and Tourism, Reyes Morato, has called on Spaniards this Friday to start planning their summer holidays now and estimates this summer tourist numbers will be around half of the 2019 figures or even slightly better. So 2019 tourist figures obviously not expected for this year, but we have to start somewhere. Hotel bookings around the country are apparently up, and the tourism sector here in Spain is looking forward to getting back to some type of normality. Now let's have a look at a summary of the health situation here in Spain. We can see the accumulated incidence rate for the last 14 days now sitting at 235. We can see the total amount of cases now creeping up to the 3.5 million mark. There are currently 10,380 people hospitalized around the country with COVID, and there are 2,356 COVID patients in ICUs. There were 147 COVID-related deaths reported yesterday, which is down 9% on previous data. And when it comes to vaccinations, we can see that 8.3% of the population have received both doses of COVID-19 vaccines, and 22.8% of the population have received at least one dose. Now, one part of Spain that has managed to get the health situation under control in recent times is the autonomous community of Murcia. They, along with the Valencian community, have some of the best health data around the country. And yesterday, Murcia announced that they were going to delay the curfew and extend capacity for weddings and communions. The Regional Ministry of Health of the region of Murcia has agreed to delay the start of the curfew, which will be established from midnight until 6 a.m, and has extended the permitted capacity at weddings, baptisms and communions to 100 people outdoors, always seated at tables of a maximum of 6 diners, with a contingency plan for the establishment and a person responsible for compliance. So some good news there for people in Murcia who are getting married, baptized or holding their communion. Now the controversial AstraZeneca vaccine is back in the headlines again, unfortunately, and it is because Brussels has decided to sue AstraZeneca for breach of contract to deliver doses of its vaccine. The European Commission is suing the Anglo-Swedish pharmaceutical company AstraZeneca for breach of contract to deliver doses of its COVID-19 vaccine during the second quarter of 2021. The aim of the legal action, which materialized last Friday but was announced on Monday, is to force the company to deliver the promised doses. The pharmaceutical company delivered only 29.8 million doses in the first quarter compared to the 90 million promised, and for the second quarter it only plans to distribute 70 million more compared to the 300 million promised, thus hindering vaccination campaigns in EU countries. So we'll keep an eye on that lawsuit and pending court case in coming months or even possibly years, and see who was in the right and see who was in the wrong, the European Union or the company AstraZeneca. We'll wait and see. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from recent videos. One here from Robert. Hi Stu, I think the UK is like a lot of places. There seems to be a very vocal group or groups complaining about vaccines. Is COVID-19 an actual thing? Anti-mask, anti-vaccine, anti-restrictions, etc. I feel that if we want to get back to any sort of normal life, we will have to compromise and be prepared to have the vaccines, tests and possible boosters so we can all go out and about in our own countries, and if we want to travel we'll need special COVID passports. There are reports in the UK advising us that we will all be living with the virus for many years to come. Yeah, Robert, thanks for the comment. We spoke about this the other day. Somebody left a comment saying that there were quite a few people, or there seemed to be quite a few people in the UK that were against COVID passports. And you're right, it does seem that there are a lot of people complaining about various things at the moment. Anti-vaccines, anti-mask, anti-COVID-19 passports. But I think it's a minority, a vocal minority. I think the majority is silent on these matters. People are willing to have these things because they know that we will be able to get some of our freedoms back. We will be able to travel again. We will be able to go to public events. We will be able to go to places like pubs and restaurants freely if we have some type of certificate proving that we have been vaccinated. And I also agree with you that if we want to have any type of normal life soon, we're going to have to compromise, because the life we have at the moment certainly is not normal. And if the virus is going to be around for years to come, as you suggest, and it's going to be a threat to people's lives, then I can't see a problem. One here from Alan. Thanks, Stuart. Your perspective on Spanish politics I find very interesting. I shall have to find out more. The political situation in many countries has been interesting for some time. Yeah, Alan, thanks for the comment and glad to see that you find my perspective on Spanish politics interesting. I can't say the same for some other people that leave nasty comments in the comment section. And for me, Spain is a very interesting country politically, a little bit difficult to understand, or at least I find it difficult to understand. And with all of these different political parties around at the moment, especially some of the more extreme parties, it's getting more interesting by the day. But you're right, the complex political situation is not unique to Spain at the moment, unfortunately. There are lots of other countries around the world going through something similar, and politics around the world certainly is interesting at the moment. One here from Anna: so happy to hear US citizens can travel to Spain. I'm so excited. Me and my children haven't seen my husband in 2 years. Can't wait to go back to Spain. Thanks for the update. Yana, thanks for the comment. And as I said before, I'm sure that there are lots of people out there happy with the decisions announced by the European Commission yesterday, that people from the US that have been fully vaccinated will be allowed to travel to Europe this year. I've seen over the last year or so lots of stories like yours, people that have been separated because of the pandemic, people stuck in certain countries around the world because of travel restrictions, and it's good to see that finally there is some light at the end of the tunnel for people that haven't seen loved ones for a while. So good news all round. One here from Derek: so if they are letting in vaccinated Americans, I assume it would be the same for all fully vaccinated individuals. Equally, should Spaniards who have been fully vaccinated be allowed to travel around Spain? Yeah, Derek, thanks for the comment. I imagine that that is going to be the case. Of course, they announced yesterday the United States because Ms. von der Leyen was talking to the New York Times, but I'm sure that there are plans in place for people from other countries that have also been fully vaccinated to be able to travel to places like Europe this year. When it comes to travelling freely around Spain, I haven't heard too much on this. As we know, the state of alarm comes to an end on May the 9th, and some people are suggesting that travel will be allowed again, although there are some autonomous communities that have hinted at keeping their borders closed and are only going to allow people in if they have been vaccinated. I know that Galicia mentioned something like that last week, and Andalusia also mentioned that they are going to allow people vaccinated to travel between provinces down there. So as I said, nothing's set in stone yet, but I'm sure more details will come to light in coming weeks. And one here from M Loco Life: if a vaccine passport gets me traveling again, I am in. Yeah, M Loco, thanks for the comment, and I am sure that you are speaking for a lot of people with your words there. As I have said on many occasions, I don't have a problem with this vaccine passport. Various countries around the world require people to be vaccinated if they want to visit those countries. For example, if you go to some African countries, some Asian countries, some South American countries. So what's the problem with the COVID-19 passport? If it allows me to travel safely to a place like Australia, like you, I'm in. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the situation out as you normally do. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.